Hi there, and welcome to another Faculty Friday. Faculty Friday is a part of the newly introduced Lakehead International Live Series. So the Lakehead International Live Series is a daily live event at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday. It's a fun and informative way to connect with your Lakehead recruiters, as well as learn about different topics at Lakehead, different departments, different programs, meet current students, meet faculty members, and so much more. So today we will be chatting about economics, and we do have a special guest with us, Robert Petrunia, who is the chair and associate professor within the Department of Economics. I'm also joined by Patrick Carr, who is an international recruitment officer, and my name is Jordan. I am the international new and social media officer here at Lakehead. So to give you a brief introduction to who I am and what I do here at Lakehead, as I said, I'm the International New and Social Media Officer. I help oversee our online presence as well as our digital recruitment efforts in our overseas markets. And in brief, what that means is I help organize and manage these webinars, so our live events. I also run our social media pages, and I do quite a bit more on the marketing and communications side of international enrollment. And I'll pass it off to Patrick now, and he'll give a brief background of what he does here at Lakehead.
Good morning or afternoon or evening, depending on where you're joining us from today. My name is Patrick Carr. I am one of the recruitment officers here at Lakehead University. I specifically am responsible for Africa and the Middle East and the Caribbean for Lakehead's presence there. But I'm here and happy to represent all of my fellow recruitment officers who have a global presence. I'm a Lakehead alumni myself, and happy to answer any questions about the experience at Lakehead and any other kind of recruitment or transition questions.
Awesome, thank you so much, Patrick. And obviously moving on to our special guest, Robert Petrunia, who is once again the chair and associate professor for the Department of Economics. I'll pass it off to him to do a brief intro and chat a bit about what he does here at Lakehead.
Thank you, Jordan. Yeah, welcome to this chat. It's exciting to have contact from the outside world. So I'm the chair of economics currently. So my role is to provide guidance, advice and academic advising to undergraduate students, and also in general overall advising about also to the graduate students. And so you can come to me to discuss things like what courses you can take, what you're designing your program, and things like that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And I would also just like to note that the three of us are working remotely. We are working from home, so I do apologize. We are going to try and keep today's webinar right on track, but as you might expect, working from home and not in your typical office environment, you might hear a few noises. I myself have a few dogs. I know Patrick has a dog, so I do apologize in advance if you hear any of that. But otherwise, we'll jump into it and we'll start covering some of the general slides. First off, though, I'd definitely like to touch on things to remember throughout today's webinar. If you do like what you're watching, if you have to head out early or if you join us late, you will receive a link to the recording. So those recordings are posted on our YouTube channel. If you would like to visit it, simply Lakehead University. The playlist that you are looking for is the Lakehead International Live playlist. All of our webinar recordings go up live on there. As well, if you are a part of our mailing list and you receive our emails from international enrollment, you will receive that recording link within the next few days. If you have any questions for, like Patrick said, general Lakehead questions, or if you have any questions specifically for our special guest regarding economics, the department, program offerings, all that sort of stuff, please feel free to use the Q&A function on Zoom if you are joining us through that platform. If you're on Facebook Live, you can always comment, and we do have Lakehead experts behind the scenes fielding those questions as well. Last but not least, if you're watching this as a recording, you can always comment on the YouTube video or wherever you're watching it, and we do have our Lakehead experts obviously monitoring the uploaded versions or the recorded versions as well to help answer those questions. Last but not least, I always like to remind everyone to stay connected with us. Follow us on our social media. So we're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. For those of you joining us from China, we're also on Weibo, WeChat, Youku. And we definitely have a broad reach within our social media, and we're posting regular updates about live events that are coming up, announcements that are coming out of the university, as well as just a sneak peek into the preview of what it's like to study at Lakehead and what it's like to live in our beautiful cities of Aurelia and Thunder Bay. Otherwise, I would love to draw your attention, last but not least, to the bottom of your screen here. Welcome at lakeheadu.ca is our general email for international. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us, and we'd be happy to connect with you, either direct you to the proper department for that answer, or hopefully get you the answer as soon as possible. And if you are looking for more specific questions regarding the current global pandemic or coronavirus, COVID-19, we do have a dedicated website. It's lakeheadu.ca/about/coronavirus. We currently have an FAQ section, so a frequently asked questions section for future students and applicants. So we have already populated answers for some of those really common questions, such as how do I submit final documents? What do I do with my English language proficiency requirements if my test centers are closed? What are the next steps to accept my offer? All that sort of stuff is already populated there, and we are updating that site on a regular basis. So as soon as we do make announcements, those FAQs are already populated with those answers. So I do encourage you to explore that if you also have any COVID-19 related questions. Otherwise, I'll jump into it, and we'll start chatting about economics here at Lakehead. So one thing that I always like to start off with on Faculty Fridays is just kind of going over the program overview and chatting with our special guests to see what programs are specifically offered within the Department of Economics. So I'll pass it off to Robert to chat about those different programs and the levels of study and whatnot.
Yeah, okay. So at the undergraduate level, we have kind of the standard offerings of programs. We have a honors Bachelor of Arts in Economics and a Bachelor of Arts in Economics as both a 3-year and a 4-year option. The 4-year is a fallback degree, meaning that you go through the honors, and then if you have some problems, there's always the option to fall back to the regular Bachelor of Arts degree. Then we also have some joint degrees. We have a joint honors Economics and Political Science, BA honor Economics and Political Science. Those degrees tend to be good, give you a good structure and preparation for going and doing continued studies in law school. I think that's kind of their main purpose. They kind of go into law school kind of a good things to have are economics and political science. We also have a undergraduate BA degree jointly with math. So it's a BA Econ and Math. And so that one's, we do tend to use a fair amount of mathematics in our economics courses. And so that's kind of just targeting those complementarities. And then the last degree is an HBSC degree in resource economics and environmental management. I probably misspoke on the exact title of that, but it's basically a resource economics and resource and environmental economics degree. So with that one, you get the economics, but then there's also a focus of studying some environmental issues, and the economics comes in is that you have to take some courses in economics that focus on how we study environmental and resource economics from how we study resource and environment from an economics point of view. The last thing I should mention is that we do have a master's program, and so if there's anybody out there looking for graduate programs, we do have one of those as well.
Awesome. So just to clarify, the programs that you had mentioned before where you chatted about the political science mixed in with economics as well as the math and the resource and environmental economics, those are undergraduate programs.
Yes.
Like you had mentioned, some of them are offered at a 4-year basis and honors, and some of them are offered within a 3-year Bachelor of Arts degree. So there's definitely different options, and that's something that you want to explore, keeping in mind what your future career goals are, what your future continuing education goals are. And I know that you've said that some of those programs are a great segue into applying to continuing education and law school and potentially other facilities, other masters, potentially a postgraduate degree, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it seems nowadays undergraduate degrees are increasingly more and more, you have to do more work. So graduate school, post-undergraduate degrees like law school, medical school, and these are very viable options.
Awesome. And I know we do have a current question in the chat that's a general one that Patrick is going to answer. So I'll pass it off to him now to address that question.
Yeah, so thank you. There's a question in the chat that is about how we as the university interact with new students in the college environment or the university environment, and how I think they're getting at how easy is it to fit in and be welcoming. So I just want to say that Lakehead has a great welcoming campus, both of our campuses in Thunder Bay and Aurelia. And we, at the beginning of every semester, we do have a new student orientation. We have sessions specific for international students where you'll kind of have some very specific content to being a new international student at Lakehead. But there's also a number of orientation sessions for all students that international students are encouraged to attend. And this is a great way to connect with your faculty, connect with all the different student services around campus. And if you're living on campus in residence, I know there are a number of residence events all throughout the year for students to connect with their peers and in a more casual, fun way. And just being a smaller school with smaller class sizes, I think it's an excellent opportunity for students to get to know their faculty in a way that you might not get at larger institutions. And I think that's a really powerful part of our education at Lakehead.
For sure, and to add on to that, I've been meeting with quite a few students on Instagram Live, so every Tuesday and Thursday, as I had mentioned, as a part of the daily Lakehead International Live series. I'm on Instagram Live meeting a current student. We actually have an economics student joining us next Tuesday, joining me next Tuesday, and she'll be chatting about her experience as a student coming from Vietnam, but also studying in the economics department, working on campus, all that sort of stuff. But what I've heard from many students is the power in having these small classes and being able to connect more closely with their professors and getting help and assistance, but also connecting with their peers and classmates, because there's a very large aspect of having the peer support, because simply you can understand a topic and you can help your friends, but you could also be confused by something and go and seek help from your classmates before you exhaust all resources. On top of all this, of course, we do have academic zones and tutoring available for our students. And I believe, Robert, you were gonna add something in there too. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna reiterate the small classes are great. It helps us get to know the students as faculty. It helps the students get to know the faculty as well. Don't be shy to ask questions of your faculty, especially in the economics. They're all friendly people. I'm assuming most of you these are mostly first years that we're talking to today, Jordan?
Most likely, yeah. So our invites typically go out to applicants and prospects, as well as our recruitment partners and agencies.
Okay.
So we could have a quite diverse audience today.
Yes.
But again, if you do have any questions, no matter what audience type you are, no matter what your situation is right now, we're happy to address your questions.
So yeah, so the faculty that are teaching first year, they're a friendly bunch. They don't put me in first year because I'm too grumpy, but I warm up after a while. So, but yeah, no, we're all a friendly bunch, so don't be shy. And I encourage you to get to know your faculty, regardless of what course you're taking. Take advantage of the small classes in economics and other disciplines that you may be studying.
Awesome. And so then now that we've introduced sort of the variety of program options and also chatted a bit about the first year experience, I would love to dive into sort of the areas of study and where a typical economics students will gain insight in, and what what those studies will look like?
So, so what we're looking at, there's two broad subject areas in economics that you see it in first year. There's what's going on in the broad economy, the macroeconomic picture. We call that, of course, macroeconomics. And then there's the small picture, individuals or businesses, but not just businesses, also individuals, you as people. We look at choices that people make. We look at or try to model those choices. We try to give you a picture of why people make decisions they do, why businesses make the decisions they do, and try to get those insights into those areas. And so as you move through the programs and move on in years, it becomes, of course, more specialized in what you're studying. And you may focus in one course purely on individual behaviors in a certain topic area, like decisions to work, how much do you want to work. Another course might focus on decisions specifically of businesses, how businesses operate, the nature of how businesses compete against each other. And so that's, I don't know if that's helped or that gets at the question you were asking.
For sure, yeah. I also know that on our website for our undergraduate programs, we definitely mention the fact that students will typically gain insight into subjects such as resource allocation, current policy debates, statistics, economic theory, incentives, econometrics, and decision making. So I'm sure, could you maybe touch on some of those as well?
So yeah, so the general policy, and that's going to get at the macro economic, more focused in the macroeconomics. So, you know, look at our world today, right? This is kind of a prime example, and you see, okay, the policy debates about what to do when we have a pandemic and people get laid off or have to stay at home. Now, do you provide assistance as a government? You know, you see the employment assistance programs out there. They've added things for students now as well, and can provide some insight on reasons why you would do this. And so again, government policies and different government agencies, what they do, decisions that have to be made there. The econometrics, statistics, that's the analysis, getting into data, finding data to analyze different problems. I mean, this is just more or less generally what we do in different disciplines. You have two sides of things. You have a theory side, and then you have an empirical side, which tries to examine the validity of the theory. And so that's where that comes in, that statistical analysis comes in. It's now examining with real world data. And so, yeah, and the resource allocation, both, again, at a micro level, individuals, how do individuals spend their budgets? You know, you have limited amount of money, how is that spent? You have a limited amount of time in your day, how do you divide up your day through different activities? So some of that day is spent working, which then can be used which then gives you money to be able to spend on different things that you want to buy. And then also at a aggregate economy-wide level, we have so many resources in the economy. How are these distributed across the economy? Why are they distributed? What ways are they distributed? And so on.
Awesome. I mean, I know I could probably use a class in resource allocation for time management and spending. I mean, I'm guilty for spending quite a bit of my money and not saving as much as I probably should. But it's definitely interesting to hear how some of these really important areas of study and just topics in general are playing such a significant role in today's current situation. As you mentioned, economics is playing a huge role into analyzing what the government is doing to support the the citizens of their country to ensure that they feel supported and they can also continue on even though this is such an unprecedented time. And we're definitely going to dive into career outcomes, career paths, continuing education, and then also I would love to dive into the co-op and experiential learning. But first, we'll chat about course selection, and maybe we could first go into some of the typical first-year courses, and then we'll follow up with some of the really popular courses among economics students.
So first year, in specifically for economics, you do, of course, your first year economics 1100. That's 1 credit course, so that's running a full year. And so again, this is introductory. You kind of half the year spent on microeconomics. So you're looking at individuals and their decisions, firms and their decisions, and then how these two agents interact in our economy or in a market in general. The second half is now the macroeconomic half, and that's going to be the economy-wide. We're trying to capture what's going on in the overall economy, and then we're trying to bring in, like I mentioned, government policies, things like our government choices, how the government spends money, tax decisions at the government, and then also the monetary policy. What is the interest rate set up? And so that's first year economics, and then from that you kind of, it's standard general first year. I think you have courses that you kind of fill in around that. If you're doing the honors program, we advise to take some math courses or try to take some math courses within the first year or second year. When you get into second year, you take some statistics course. And so the only reason I mentioned that is that statistics course is really, can be thought of as another first year course as well.
Sure, yeah, and I can appreciate the Economics 1100. As a business graduate of Lakehead, that was one of my first year requirements, so I did that for the full year in my first year. And it definitely was really interesting to explore, as you mentioned, the microeconomics and those individual analyses, and then also the macroeconomics, exploring the broad base of the economy and the global economy. And we definitely dove into some of those topics in depth, and the professors that we have here at Lakehead, I enjoyed both of my professors tremendously because they're so knowledgeable, and they've also, many of them are published and highly regarded around the world too. And then diving into some of the more popular classes among economics students, I know on the website it notes that students that we do offer in natural resources economics, and it's very popular among the economics and environmental studies side, and they are also typically interested in pursuing law degrees. So I know that course examines renewable and non-renewable resources, the theory of resource exhaustion, scarcity indicators, forest and fisheries management. Do you have anything to add to sort of that, one of those courses that's industry relevant, obviously?
Yeah, so there's two kind of environment or natural resources. There's our second year environmental economics course. So that's more, how should I phrase it? It kind of gives you an introductory to the issues, introduction to the issues of resources, environmental, and how we study it, how we study these things from as an economist, or how an economist would look at these issues. And then the more advanced one that you kind of focused on just gives the more advanced treatment. The second year one is more focused on environmental economics purely. The second one's more focused on the natural resource economics, with now a particular topic being environmental economics. We want to look at, well, how do we manage the environment? What's the problem from an economist's point of view? How do we view the problem of the environment? And then from that, we can gain some insight on how to manage it. So that's definitely a popular course. Certainly the second year one is. We have a health economics course, which people like. It kind of focuses on health policy issues, management of the health system, things like that. We have some third year courses that are kind of money and banking, which looks at the kind of has two parts to it, the financial systems one side, and then the monetary policy side. Those are kind of the two parts. People find that interesting. We have a development course looking at economic development. And so that's getting into issues. Why do some countries succeed where other countries don't succeed? Both in terms historically, over time, we have our rich countries today versus our poor countries today. But even in the last, say, 30 years, right? Why have there been some countries that have just taken off in the last 30 years, been able to almost catch up to the rich countries, where other countries just to be stagnant, unable to catch up, and looking at the challenges of developing a country. So those are kind of some flavor there. The one thing I would say with respect to that is that we are a small faculty. So within an individual year, our offerings tend to be not necessarily that broad. But if you are interested in a particular course and you would like it to be offered, make sure you let us know. Let us know that if you want to develop an economics course, then we can schedule it for you, or try to schedule it next year. If we don't know this, it's hard to. Again, we kind of have limits on what we can offer because of this limited number of faculty within a given year. But there is some flexibility going into the year on what we can offer.
Well, that's obviously great to hear that the faculty is willing to be flexible or willing to explore options based on the current student population, and obviously expanding that knowledge. Like you said, you can only offer so many courses in one semester in 1 year, but that's not to say that over the course of your entire program that you can explore a variety of fields that then at that exact moment in time are industry relevant and preparing you and getting you for that job readiness. And speaking about that too also is the fact that you touched on some of those really cool programs and how well they're connected to the current situation prior to COVID-19 and just to the current world. So the environmental economics, exploring natural resources and how tightly Canada is wound to the natural resources. And then also, of course, renewable energy. And then you chatted about healthcare policies and healthcare economics. Obviously, economists that are in the healthcare field right now are probably working extra hours exploring the different policies and the different procedures and whatnot that are being implemented. And then I also know that we're going to dive into the career outcomes, so that's upcoming. But now I would love to take this opportunity to chat a bit about co-op. So I have a dedicated slide for that. So the cooperative advantage is offered within the Department of Economics at the graduate level of studies. So if you are completing your Master's of Arts in Economics, there is a cooperative option. In general, co-op terms are between 4 to 16 month work terms. And students typically earn between $20 and $25 per hour on average. So that is Canadian. And obviously those numbers are great to chat about because the minimum wage within Ontario is 14. So we'll typically see our cooperative education students earning above minimum wage and earning a great living at that. And we are partnered with over 140 national and international partners. Of course, when you are in economics or within any of your programs, your selection might vary. So you might be narrowed down to a few companies, whereas if you are in certain programs, you might still have the entire pool of companies to select from. But we definitely see how economics and students studying within that field have a connection to most companies in some sense. So to go over some of the companies that we have seen our students at in the past, we've seen them at IBM, Hydro One, BlackBerry, the Thunder Bay Regional Health Sciences Center, Grant Thornton, Newmount Gold Corp. Those are just to name a few, of course. Robert, if you could maybe mention, have you seen some other significant companies, or where have you seen some of your co-op students going in recent years?
Sorry. So, you know, we don't have a lot of co-op students. It's kind of one every maybe 1 to 3 years. There is one currently. I'm not sure where she's at.
Is it Kelsey?
No. Was Kelsey doing a co-op?
So Kelsey is actually my student worker, and she will be starting her co-op. Today's her first full-time day, and then officially her co-op starts. She was already a part-time employee with us with an international enrollment, but she'll be starting on Monday officially with her co-op, and she'll be helping me with social media and data analysis, and kind of tying social media analysis and all of the statistics and seeing how it affects the recruitment process for Lakehead University.
Okay, and just to be clear, sorry, this may be inside, but this is the Vietnamese woman, right?
Yes, yeah. So Kelsey is from Vietnam, and she is doing her Masters of Arts in Economics.
Yeah. So yeah, okay, that's surprising. Yeah. So this is kind of a lot of the problem is, so we try to find placements for students, and so some students have gone to Ontario government, some students have gone to the federal government, Statistics Canada, I know, but then sometimes the students go out and find their own placement. So that's where the one I was referring to actually wasn't Kelsey. This was another one, another student, and I'm not quite sure. She's kind of, she's still on her placement, and I know her supervisor was saying that he hasn't heard too much from her since the placement. So the students that find their own placement, and it's actually a nice option too, if you can do it. Sometimes we lose track of where they've gone to, and we don't really know where they've gone until they come back. It's maybe a miscommunication both between us and the student, but also with the co-op office and us as well.
Sure, and I know there's a process, obviously. If the co-op is connected via the Faculty of Economics, so if one of our faculty members, for example, if you were to connect a student with a current opportunity, maybe at the provincial or federal level within the government, or just a previous co-op opportunity that you're really proud to have another Lakehead student go into, I'm sure you're a little bit more connected in that sense. But obviously with all of our co-ops, the actual position is vetted by the graduate coordinator. I'm not sure what his name is within the Department of Economics, but he reviews what the position overview, as well as just confirms that it is going to meet the requirements to satisfy the degree, so that there will be successful graduation after the fact. But like you mentioned, because they're a co-op and they're working full time, when they do move into that role within that company and they're on that co-op term, they don't need to necessarily communicate as frequently with their professors or their faculty members, because we want them to focus on their placement at that time, and we want them to be successful within that job too. So I'm going to double check to see if we have any questions. So if we do have any questions on, and you're joining us from Zoom, you can use the Q&A function and submit those now. If you are joining us on Facebook Live, you can always submit in the comments, and we do have our Lakehead experts behind the scenes answering those. If you're watching this as a recording, you can always comment on the video. And once again, we'll have our Lakehead experts monitoring those videos on a regular basis to make sure that they're answering your questions. Otherwise, I would love to move into some of the student research opportunities. So I'll go back a slide just so we're on the general economic side once again. Within each course and within the program itself, how are students involved in research? Are there opportunities for students to just on the side be involved with faculty in their research?
So there are opportunities. These kind of come one of two ways. So one way is the students that do an honors BA program have to do a honors thesis, and so sometimes and also the master's master's students have to do a research paper. And so either through the honors thesis or the master's paper, sometimes this research is related to what faculty do in their research. Okay? It's kind of extensions of what the faculty will be doing. And it just really depends. The other way to be involved is to get hired as a research assistant. There's limited opportunities for that, but it does happen. And so this would be helping faculty conduct research in different ways, gathering data maybe, going out and gathering research articles related to the topics being studied, and these type of methods. Doing some analysis, statistical analysis, things like that. And it just really depends on the timing if there's opportunities available to conduct research with a faculty member.
So we do have a question from Jose. The co-op program mentioned on our website is only available to the economics master's degree. That is correct. So we do offer the co-op cooperative education through the Masters of Arts in Economics strictly. But like we're chatting about right now, there are opportunities to still gain really valuable work-related job skills. So within that research positions in the undergraduate level. And then of course, like Robert just mentioned, if you are doing the honors basis and you're completed the 4 years, there is that honors thesis project in your 4th year where you will be conducting research and gaining some really great job readiness skills. And there's definitely opportunities even when you're studying throughout the 4 years in an undergraduate or 3 years in an undergraduate. As an international student who is studying full-time, you do have eligibility to work part-time during the academic school year, so that's up to 20 hours a week. And then during academic or scheduled academic leave, so for example, the fall reading week, the winter reading week, Christmas break, in an undergraduate program, if you aren't completing courses in the summer, so all the way from May through to the end of August, you can work up to full-time hours. Typical full-time hours are around 40, and that's also on campus and off campus. So you can certainly explore different opportunities within the city, within external organizations, and we do have a career zone, and our Student Success Center helps facilitate all those sorts of job opportunities, such as hosting several career fairs throughout the school year where we have employers on campus offering jobs for full-time students that are graduating, so graduating candidates, as well as summer opportunities where students that will have that scheduled 4-month academic break, they'll be working full-time in summer too. So there's plenty of options to explore within that. And something I wanted to clarify, with the research jobs where they are hired, is that a volunteer position or is that a paid position, Robert?
Both are possible. Again, I was thinking more the paid side, but if students want to volunteer, of course, faculty are always welcoming that. But the paid side, it just depends on what dollars are available to hire people.
For sure. And so obviously, like you said, there are limited paid positions, but we always strongly encourage, if you truly have a passion about something a faculty member is researching on, get involved, even if you're helping with the slightest bit of research or you're helping compile the data and doing statistical analysis. There's also the possibility when we see students applying for continuing education, so when they are applying for medical school, law school, graduate school, typically they are required to provide letter of recommendations. Being that we are a smaller school and of course our class sizes are quite small and you do get connected with your professor, as it is, you most likely would get a great letter of recommendation because our professors are able to get to know you on a deeper level and also understand. But speaking to that, if you are volunteering with them and helping them with their research opportunities, I'm sure they'd be even more willing to write a glowing review for you. So when you do anticipate on applying to that next step within your education journey, you'll definitely have a positive outcome from that. So now moving on, I would love to chat about, we've covered the program, we've covered co-op, the course offerings, all that sort of stuff, areas of study. Another major question is sort of the success of the program, and where do students end up after they've gone through that entire process. So on your screen right now, we do have a few career opportunities or career outcomes, we might say. Did you want to expand on any of these or add to some of these?
So I would say that pretty much covers it. You know, it's maybe not the most exciting outcome, but certainly the government's hiring economists constantly. You know, there's some mention there, agricultural economist, things like that. There's also the opportunities to do more schooling, both graduate work or something like law school. Policy analysis is going to be with the government, both the provincial governments and federal government. Business economists, they're out there. There's opportunities for that. There's economic development officers is another opportunity that's I don't see on there, but that's potential. There's also research analysis positions as well. We've got our Northern Policy Institute it's got offices here in Thunder Bay, but it's got offices across Northern Ontario. They've hired some of our graduates in the past. So yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, I've also seen some of our faculty and staff within the Department of Economics participate in those Northern Ontario Economic Policy Research Offices
Yes.
and speak to some of those really important researches that are happening for Northern Ontario,
Yep.
where of course our Thunder Bay campus is located, and then the access to Ontario and the job market. We've seen some great success with our graduates too.
Yes.
If you do have any more questions about career opportunities or the career outcomes, I do encourage you to reach out to us directly or reach out to the Department of Economics directly, and we'd be happy to chat more with you about that, because we understand that end goal of finalizing your education, of course, is to get a job within your field, and then obviously, hopefully, a job that connects to multiple of your passions and something that you're truly committed to. So I'll double check the Q&A right now. It looks like we don't have any. So I'll start the wrap up process. I have a few more things to add. And then if we do have any questions come through, we'll be happy to answer those. So like I did mention before, we are on social media. We are on Facebook, Lakehead University International. We actually already have a group on there for the incoming class of 2020. We are roughly around 200 students already on that group having great conversations. Some of the best examples are students that are meeting people that are joining the same program as them. So they're already having those discussions, meeting future classmates. There's also some great conversations happening regarding where students are coming from. So people are meeting each other within their own cities already, virtually, of course, or they could be facilitating some roommate arrangements. There's an endless amount of possibilities. I just met with a student yesterday on our Instagram Live who joined us from India, and before he came, he had joined one of these groups, and he had made a tight-knit group of friends beforehand, and the 5 of them actually met up on campus during the orientation process, and it was a really rewarding experience for him. He mentioned of meeting these friends, but also feeling a little more comfortable when they arrived on campus, and when they arrived at Lakehead, they had already met some students. And they met up, of course, and now they've built that lifelong friendship. That's 3 years down the road, and he's roommates with a few of them still, as well. He's friends with all of them, of course. So those are lifelong friendships that have been facilitated through that Facebook group page. Once again, it's the incoming class of 2020 for Lakehead University. Like I mentioned, we're on Instagram, Lakehead International, doing Instagram Lives every Tuesday and Thursday, where we meet a current student. We chat about their student experience, academic experience, living on campus, how they've been involved, all that sort of stuff. We also answer your questions live. So if you have questions for students from your home country or from the program that you're pursuing, please feel free to join us there. We're on Twitter, Lakehead INTL. We're also on YouTube, Lakehead University. We do have 2 playlists dedicated to our international audiences. One is the Lakehead International Live playlist where we put all of these recordings and past recordings on there. So if you did need to head out or leave, you can always see the recording after the fact. Or if you missed a previous one where we've dove into careers and co-ops, residence living, our hometowns, our international student advisors, and so much more, you can always explore that. The second playlist is simply the international playlist, where you'll hear from current students, hear testimonials about their student experience or academic experience, as well as some general videos to help you get to know Lakehead, Thunder Bay, Lakehead, Aurelia a bit more. Last but not least, we do have a virtual tour. So we do acknowledge, of course, given the current situation, you are not able to visit us here on campus in Thunder Bay or Aurelia, but you can simply take a virtual tour, explore the facilities, explore the beautiful environment that surrounds our campuses, and you can do that from the comfort of your own home. So you can lay in bed, pull out your laptop, pull out your iPad, all that sort of stuff, do the virtual tour, or sit on the couch and do it with your family members or your guardians, and you can explore our campuses. We always encourage students to do that. I did see a Q&A pop up. So the question is, can you explain the procedure for majors and minors of economics? So if you could kind of expand on that. I'm not familiar whether we offer minors in economics.
So there is a minor in economics. It's 3 full course equivalents. So for example, economics 1100 is 1 full course equivalent, and then you would need 2 more full course equivalents. So that would be 4 1 semester courses in addition to economics 1100. So that's a minor. I think that's pretty standard across disciplines. Can you explain the procedure for major? I'm not quite sure what you mean outside of that. Major, then you need more courses.
For sure, yeah, and I could elaborate on that. I know that students within the Faculty of Business Administration that are pursuing, in my experience, typically a finance degree, they also have to take quite a few economics courses, and so it's a very easy transition for them to also minor in economics. But it's not select to business students or students within the Department of Economics. As a student at Lakehead, no matter which department you are in, based on your program requirements, of course, you can take those courses. I know that some of our upper year courses are select to students that have a prerequisite. For example, like Robert had mentioned, you do need to complete the Econ 1100, which is the full year or 1 full FCE course. And then that typically prescribes the eligibility to go into some of those upper year courses. Maybe if you need to expand on that, Robert, I'd be happy to let you.
Sorry, what was that again?
Just speaking to the fact that students that are looking to minor in those courses, they can come from any program, any
That's
faculty.
right. Yep.
Yeah. They just have to be aware of the fact that some of the upper year courses, of course, have prescribed requirements. So courses that they would have needed to complete in order to be eligible to go into that. And that just sets you up for the best success because, of course, we'll cover some general topics in the first few years of your program or the economics department. And then as we begin to specialize more, those skills needed to be developed in order to be successful in that upper year course.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Generally, like Jordan's mentioned, you kind of get who does a minor outside of economics, kind of students who develop an interest in economics, and also they have program requirements that have a number of economics courses. So they're almost there anyways with the program requirements, and then taking 1 or 2 more 1 semester courses is not much extra tasking. Regarding the upper year courses, you can pretty much go through the minor. Like, again, you need economics 1100 anyways, and you can pretty much do the minor with courses that only require economics 1100. So to fill those 2 extra full course equivalents, you're doing 3rd year or 2nd year level courses. Pretty much all those courses only have a economics 1100 as a prerequisite anyways. So, if you want to do more advanced 4th year, that's when you might get into trouble. But again, if things are designed properly, you won't get into too much trouble anyways. And generally, students who are doing a minor generally do the advanced. The most advanced they will do is third year level courses anyways.
Awesome. So it has come to that time. I want to thank all of our viewers for joining us today, and thank you to our special guest Robert for joining us. It's been a pleasure chatting with you and diving into the Department of Economics, the offerings, the opportunities for our current students and our future students. Also, thank you to Patrick for helping me co-host today and fielding questions about Lakehead in general. Like I said, though, if you do have any more questions or you are watching this as a recording, you can always comment on the video and we'll be happy to get back to you. Otherwise, I'll say goodbye for now.